Right after signing for our new home, my husband sent a text. "I'm leaving you and moving to Texas with your sister." I called her. She giggled and said, "Oops." My mom looked me in the eye and said, "Now you fight dirty." So I did. And the realtor called me a genius. I always thought that when my life fell apart, I'd see it coming. Maybe there'd be warning signs, something to prepare me. A lingering doubt, a whispered conversation behind a closed door, a gut feeling I ignored. But no, the moment my marriage ended, it wasn't a slow unraveling. It was a text message. A single goddamn text message. I remember exactly where I was when I got it. Mark and I were standing in the conference room of Monroe Realty in downtown Chicago, grinning at our realtor as we signed the last of the paperwork. Our dream home. A beautiful, two-story house in a quiet neighborhood, close to my parents, not too far from my office. We had spent months looking, arguing over square footage and countertops, and whether a finished basement was worth the extra money. And now it was ours. I felt happy, safe, secure in my life, in my marriage. I was already picturing lazy Sunday mornings in the new kitchen, drinking coffee in our sunlit breakfast nook. Maybe we'd get a dog. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down, barely paying attention at first. I assumed it was a work email or my mom checking in. But when I saw the message, the breath left my body. "Mark, I'm leaving you. I'm moving to Texas with your sister. Don't bother calling." My first thought was, this must be a mistake. I turned to Mark, my husband of 8 years, the man I had loved, fought with, built a life with. He was standing right next to me, shaking hands with the realtor, smiling. It didn't make sense. My heart pounded so hard I felt lightheaded. My fingers clenched around my phone. I forced my voice to stay calm. "Mark." He turned to me, and that was when I knew. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't confused. He wasn't frantically grabbing his own phone, saying, "What the HLL? That's not me." He just looked at me, expressionless, detached, like I was a stranger. The realtor was still talking, but his words blurred into meaningless noise. The room felt suddenly too bright, too hot. My stomach churned. Mark cleared his throat and shoved his hands in his pockets. "We should talk later." "Talk later?" I laughed. A short, ugly sound. I held up my phone. "You're leaving me? You're moving to Texas with—" I couldn't even say it. My throat felt tight. Mark exhaled. He actually had the nerve to look annoyed. "Hannah, don't do this here." "Don't do this here?" I felt like the floor had cracked open beneath me. My whole life, my marriage, my trust, shattered in an instant. The realtor, Jacob, was glancing between us now, clearly sensing the shift in the air. "Is everything okay?" he asked hesitantly. I could feel my face burning. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to cry. But I refused to fall apart in front of Mark. Not here. Not in front of a stranger. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to nod. "Yeah." Mark exhaled, relieved. That pissed me off even more. I turned to Jacob. "Actually, would you excuse us for a second?" Jacob hesitated, but then gave an awkward nod and stepped out of the room. The door clicked shut behind him. The second we were alone, I turned on Mark. "You're CHing on me with my sister?" He sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Hannah, don't Hannah me. You don't just drop a text BMB like that and then act like we can talk about it later." My voice was rising, but I didn't care. "How long?" He hesitated. "How long?" A muscle in his jaw twitched. 6 months. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I had spent the last 6 months planning our future, picking out paint colors for a home we'd never live in together. And the entire time, he had been sleeping with my sister? I clenched my fists. Why now? Why today? Mark finally met my eyes. "Because I needed you to sign the house papers." I blinked. "Excuse me. Your credit score is better than mine," he said, like it was just some inconvenient truth. "If I bailed before we closed, the mortgage wouldn't have gone through. I had to make sure the sale was final first." I stared at him, mouth open. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated. He had stayed, pretended, lied to my face for months. Also, he could make sure I got the house, so he wouldn't be on the hook for it. I felt sick. I turned and stormed out of the office, barely hearing him call my name. I needed air. I needed to get away. I didn't know where to go, but my car seemed to move on autopilot, driving me straight to my parents' house. My mom was in the kitchen when I walked in, still wearing my work heels, still gripping my phone like it was a lifeline. She took one look at my face and put the kettle on. "Sit," she said. I collapsed into a chair. My whole body felt numb. I told her everything. Mark, the text, my sister. Lauren, my own sister. By the time I finished, my mom's expression had darkened. She sat across from me, fingers tapping against the table. Then she said something that changed everything. "Now you fight dirty." I blinked. "What?" She sipped her tea, eyes sharp. "You don't cry over this. You don't let them think they won. You fight dirty." Something inside me clicked into place. She was right. I wasn't going to sit around, heartbroken, while they rode off into their perfect new life. No, I was going to make them pay. I sat there in silence, staring at my mother as her words echoed in my mind. "Now you fight dirty." I had spent my whole life being the good one. The responsible one. The one who always did things the right way. And where had that gotten me? Betrayed. Blindsided. Humiliated. No, not this time. I straightened in my chair and set my tea down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Okay, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Tell me how. My mom smirked. It was the first time I had ever seen her look truly dangerous. She leaned in. First, we make sure they don't get what they want. I nodded, determination settling deep in my bones. The first step was securing the house. Mark thought he had played me, waiting until we signed the paperwork so he wouldn't be responsible for the mortgage. What he didn't realize was that, technically, the entire financial side of things was in my name. The down payment had come from my personal account. The mortgage was set up with my credit. His name was on the title, sure, but all I had to do was push a little. So, I called Jacob, our realtor. He picked up on the third ring. Hannah, hey, everything okay? I took a deep breath. Actually, Jacob, I need some advice. I explained the situation, keeping my voice as even as possible. Jacob was silent for a long time. Then he let out a low whistle. Damn, yeah. And he just texted you? Yep. Another pause. Then, to my surprise, Jacob laughed. Well, I'll give him this. He's got balls. No brains, but balls. I huffed out something that was half a laugh, half a bitter exhale. So what can I do? Legally, I mean. Jacob was quiet for a moment. Then his tone shifted into something more professional. Okay, so, first things first, you technically own the house now. If you want him off the title, you can force a buyout or file for a petition sale. A petition sale? Basically, you can petition the court to force a sale of the property if he refuses to sign it over. But since the mortgage is in your name, and he's not financially tied to it, you actually have the upper hand. You could argue that he abandoned the home and request full ownership. I doubt he'd want to fight it in court. It'd cost him money. I absorbed that. And if I wanted to sell? Jacob hesitated. You'd have to wait a bit. Legally, the house has to be in your name alone before you can sell it without his permission. But there might be ways to speed that up. I could hear the suggestion in his voice. I grinned. Tell me everything. That night, I stayed at my parents' house, curled up on the couch with a bottle of wine. My dad was unusually quiet about everything, but my mom? She was in full war mode. She sat across from me, flipping through an old filing cabinet. Do you know how long I've been waiting for the day I could legally ruin Lauren's life? I raised an eyebrow. That's a little dark, Mom. She shrugged. I have 2 daughters. One of them is a snake. She wasn't wrong. Lauren had always been difficult. The golden child in my dad's eyes, but a nightmare in mine. Growing up, she took whatever she wanted. Toys, clothes, friends. And now, my husband. I wasn't even surprised. But I was angry. I scrolled through my phone, staring at her Instagram. Her last post was a mirror selfie with some cheesy caption about new beginnings. I gritted my teeth. Oh, honey, you have no idea what's coming. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I'd barely slept, my brain spinning with every possible way to make them regret what they'd done. But by the time I sat down at my mom's kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee, I had it all mapped out. Mark wanted to run off to Texas with my sister? Fine. But he wasn't going to do it while I sat back and let them win. No, I was about to make their lives very difficult. I took a deep breath and dialed Mark's number. He answered on the second ring. Hannah. I almost laughed at how tired he sounded. Mark, I said sweetly. I was just calling to say congratulations. He hesitated. What? On your new life. I swirled my coffee, keeping my voice light. You and Lauren must be so excited. Silence. Then he sighed. Look, I know this is hard. Oh, don't worry about me. I smiled even though he couldn't see me. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be keeping the house. Now he definitely hesitated. He cleared his throat. I mean, yeah, we figured that. I don't want anything to do with it. Perfect, I said. So you won't have any issues signing over your rights? What? I leaned back in my chair. Just a simple quitclaim deed, Mark. It releases your ownership. You don't need the house. I do. So let's make it official. I heard him shift, probably rubbing his jaw like he always did when he was thinking. I don't know. That sounds permanent. It is permanent. What happens if I don't sign? I sipped my coffee. Then I take you to court and make you pay half the mortgage until you do. That got his attention. Wait, what? His voice sharpened. You can't do that. Oh, but I can. I let the words settle in. Legally, you're still tied to the house. If you don't sign your rights over, I can demand financial contribution. And last I checked, you weren't exactly swimming in cash. Silence. I knew I had him. Mark had always been financially reckless. And if there was one thing he hated, it was spending money on things he didn't want. Finally, he sighed. Fine. Send the papers. Oh, I already did. I heard the notification go off on his end. I grinned. Have a great life, Mark. I hung up before he could say another word. That was step 1. Step 2? Lauren. I needed to talk to her. Not because I wanted an apology, she wasn't the type to give one, but because I wanted to hear her say it. I wanted to hear the smugness in her voice so I could use it against her later. So I called. She answered on the first ring. Hey sis, she chirped. Finally ready to talk? I clenched my teeth. Tell me why. She actually giggled. Oh, come on, Hannah. You know why. I stayed silent. She sighed dramatically. You never appreciated him. You were always so boring. And you know me. I live for passion. I almost dropped my phone. Passion. I repeated. Is that what you call screwing your sister's husband? She laughed. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I inhaled sharply through my nose. You are so lucky I don't beat your ass. God. Hannah, why are you so angry? You should be thanking me. I was so stunned I couldn't even respond. She took my silence as permission to continue. I mean, think about it. You and Mark were dead. No spark, no excitement. He needed someone who actually understood him. I gripped the edge of the table, my nails digging into the wood. Lauren, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. You do realize he's going to CHAT on you too, right? She scoffed. Please. That only happens when men are unhappy. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But not quite. I took a deep breath. Okay. Well, I just wanted to say good luck. She hesitated. That's it. Yep. I could hear the confusion in her voice. You're not going to cry? Yell? Beg for him back? I smiled. Nope. Lauren hated when I didn't react. She thrived on drama. The fact that I was calm, that would drive her insane. Wow, she finally said. I gotta say, I expected more of a fight. I let out a small laugh. Oh, Lauren. I could almost see her perk up. I leaned forward. You have no idea what kind of fight you just started. Then I hung up. The second I hung up, my hands started shaking. Not from fear. No, that wasn't it. It was adrenaline. Lauren thought she had won. Mark thought he had outplayed me. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I had spent years letting things slide, biting my tongue, choosing the high road. And look where that had gotten me. Betrayed, humiliated, disposable. Not this time. I had already forced Mark into signing over his rights to the house, which meant I had full control now. That was step one. Step two? Making sure neither of them landed on their feet after what they did to me. I needed to gather information. I grabbed my laptop and started digging. Mark wasn't just bad with money. He was awful with it. I had spent our entire marriage cleaning up his financial messes. Unpaid credit cards, late car payments, impulsive stock investments that never panned out. He was constantly transferring balances, taking out small personal loans, always one step away from total financial ruin. And Lauren? She wasn't any better. She worked in real estate, low level, mostly rentals. But the thing about real estate? It required reputation, trust. People had to like you. And Lauren? Well, she had a history. I found an old Yelp review from a previous client. Lauren Whitmore is the most unprofessional agent I've ever worked with. She ghosted us after we put in an offer, then refused to return our deposit when the seller backed out. Do not trust her. I clicked on another one. Arrogant, rude, and completely unreliable. She only cares about her commission. Avoid at all costs. I scrolled further. There was a pattern. A lot of people thought Lauren was charming at first, but it never lasted. She was careless, self-absorbed, and if someone called her out, she went nuclear. I even found a thread on a local real estate forum where another agent had accused her of trying to steal clients. I sat back in my chair, tapping my fingers against my coffee mug. Interesting. Very interesting. I needed more. I clicked over to Facebook and pulled up her profile. Lauren was the kind of person who lived for social media, posting every meal, every outfit, every perfect moment. But when I scrolled through her timeline, my stomach twisted. There, staring back at me, was a picture from 3 weeks ago. Mark and Lauren, at dinner. His arm was around her shoulders, their wine glasses raised in a toast. The caption? Some people are meant to find each other. No matter what read hard, I clenched my jaw. 3 weeks ago. That meant everyone in her life had probably already known. Her friends, her coworkers, maybe even my own dad. I clicked the comments. Her best friend, Mia, had left a string of heart emojis. Someone else had commented, "You two are so cute together." I stared at it for a long moment, my vision blurring. They weren't even hiding it. While I had been planning our future, picking out furniture for a home we'd never live in together, Mark had already moved on. I slammed my laptop shut and forced myself to breathe. No more emotions. No more crying. If they wanted to play dirty, I would show them what dirty really looked like. First, I needed to hit them where it hurt. Lauren loved her job. It was her identity. She needed people to admire her, to see her as successful, to believe she was someone important. So what would happen if her clients and colleagues started seeing all those bad reviews? I opened an anonymous email account. Then I started forwarding links to every shady review I found. I sent them to her agency, to her competitors, to her clients. Within an hour, I saw her Yelp score drop. An hour after that, her name popped up on a local real estate Facebook group. Someone had shared one of the bad reviews, warning others to be careful. Lauren was going to lose business. And that was just the beginning. I wasn't done with Mark either. Mark and I still had a joint bank account, one we rarely used, but technically, both our names were on it. That meant I had access to his spending history. I logged in and scrolled. There it was. A $5,200 charge from a jewelry store. I clicked on it. Engagement ring purchase. My mouth went dry. Mark had bought Lauren a ring. Before he even told me he was leaving. I exhaled slowly. I could use this. I grabbed my phone and took a screenshot. Then another. I saved every questionable transaction. Hotel rooms, dinners, expensive gifts. And then, I forwarded them to our family. Our mom, our dad, our cousins, even our grandmother. Then I sat back and waited. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. The first text came from my dad. Dad, call me. Now. Then my cousin, Ava. Ava, what the HLL, Hannah. And finally, the one I had really been waiting for, Lauren herself. Lauren, you crazy BTCH. WTF did you do? I smiled, sipping my coffee as I watched the notifications roll in. Let the games begin. The thing about Lauren? She hated looking bad. And now? She looked awful. The forwarded bank transactions? They were already making their way through our family like wildfire. My grandmother, who worshipped tradition, was horrified that Mark had been buying my sister jewelry before he even left me. She called Lauren directly and chewed her out so badly that my cousin Ava texted me. Grandma just called Lauren a shameless little harlot. I actually laughed. But that wasn't the worst of it. The emails I had sent to Lauren's real estate agency, they worked faster than I expected. The day after I sent them, Lauren's boss, her mentor, called her into a meeting. Apparently, the bad reviews, complaints, and accusations had piled up too high to ignore. So they fired her. Not a suspension, not a warning. Full on, pack your desk and leave termination. Lauren had spent years climbing the real estate ladder, building her brand, acting like she was better than everyone else. And now, it was all gone. Her entire identity had just crumbled. And I wasn't even done. Then, there was Mark. Oh, poor dumb Mark. I knew him too well. He wasn't actually in love with Lauren. She was just his escape hatch. His backup plan. A shiny, reckless choice that let him avoid responsibility. But now, his escape hatch was sinking. I waited a few days before making my next move. Then I called him. He answered, but his voice was tense. What do you want, Hannah? I pretended to be confused. Wow, Mark. No, hello? No, how have you been? Cut the crap. I grinned. Fine. I just wanted to congratulate you. You and Lauren are perfect together. Silence. Then, what did you do? I hummed. You might want to check in on your fiancé. Another silence. Then a click. He had hung up. I laughed and set my phone down. It didn't take long. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Lauren. Lauren, are you f***ing kidding me, Hannah? I arched an eyebrow. Something wrong, sis? She called. I let it ring out. Then she sent another text. Lauren, Mark just broke OFF the engagement, you psychotic BTCH. I actually gasped. Then I clutched my chest, pretending to be shocked, even though no one was around to see me. Me, oh no. What happened? Lauren, he said he needs time to think. He said I pressured him into this too fast. WTF, did you tell him? I smirked. The truth was, I didn't have to tell him anything. Mark had always been weak. He liked things to be easy. And now that Lauren had lost her job, now that the shame of what they did was catching up to them, the relationship probably didn't feel so exciting anymore. The cracks had already been there. I just helped speed up the break. Lauren kept texting, but I ignored her. Instead, I made myself another cup of coffee and sat back on the couch, feeling lighter than I had in months. Mark and Lauren had tried to burn my life down, but all they had done was hand me the matches. And I burned them first. The house was mine. My finances were secure. Mark was single, broke, and scrambling. Lauren was unemployed, humiliated, and, if I had to guess, probably screaming into a pillow. And me? I was free. I had spent so many years being the good wife, the nice sister, the one who kept the peace, who forgave, who looked the other way. Not anymore. I wasn't just moving on. I was thriving. And as for Mark and Lauren, well, I hope they enjoyed their karma.